I'm starting to think that the title for this game was a troll by Sonic Team for anyone who ended up Googling it. So, Sonic X Shadow Generations is a game that exists. Initially, I wasn't going to cover this game extensively because when I saw the first trailer, it felt like a remaster with a Shadow level pack. Now, I didn't have an issue with that, but I didn't really think that it merited an entire analysis video about every single detail of the game, so I thought I'd just do a short video once the game released, and that'd be that. I was also slightly skeptical of the game since the last two remasters we had weren't really up to the mark. I'm sorry, I forgot I set my graphics to stop motion. However, recently there was a little event known as Summer Games Fest where more footage of the game was shown off along with a trailer. So, being the Sonic gremlin that I was, I tuned in, skipped to the footage of the game that I wanted to see, and... So, with that bombshell dropped onto my cynical head, I felt more motivated to drop my textbooks and get working on a thoughts and analysis video. Lord knows I need a break from looking at the mess of spaghetti that is the human nervous system. So, what exactly is it that we can look forward to? Well, the Sonic half, or I guess it's technically 2/3, of the game seems to be fundamentally similar to the original generations. Our two favorite guys, albeit I'm on the fence regarding classic Sonic, still seem to form the blue building blocks in this hodgepodge of hedgehogs, but player anecdotes seem to suggest that their controls have been slightly changed. Apparently, both modern and classic Sonic now have the drop dash in their repertoire, a move that actually wasn't there in the original generations. While I can see the potential improvement for classic Sonic stages, I'll need to actually play through the stages with modern Sonic myself to think of any applications for the drop dash. The second change is only for modern Sonic, and it's simpler, but changes oh so much. The boost is now on the right trigger, just like it was in Frontiers. And I think it's one of the best decisions that Sonic Team has ever made. The original controls layout for Generations was fine at the time, but led to issues in gameplay that felt insidious at first, but really became more prominent as you started to play through the game more. What, did the homing reticle take a vacation or something? Let me explain. The boost button was bound to the X button, jump and homing attack were bound to the A button, sliding was bound to the B button, and lightspeed dash was bound to the Y button. Since nearly every player pressed the boost button with their thumb, it was incredibly difficult and uncomfortable to access any other action button while boosting, minus the drift and quick step. Therefore, while boosting, players had two options. Stop boosting to perform another action, which killed the pace of anything that they were trying to do, or become a hand contortionist while trying to access the other buttons with the other fingers because of how much active space the thumb actually took up. Could you please let me go? I have a lot of work to do! By mapping the boost to the right trigger, this frees up a lot of space on the action buttons, and it allows for much quicker reactions while boosting. Furthermore, the button's original use, which is for drifting, isn't compromised since the left trigger has that function as well. As for what the X button can be used for now, I imagine they're likely to bring back the homing attack to the X button, same as Frontiers. But all of this is just the appetizer for this fanfiction mishmash. Now it's time to get to the main attraction.
Let me show you the ultimate speed.
Shadow's gameplay seems to be the main draw for the fans, especially the older ones like me, who are looking for an excuse to pay $50? And only the digital deluxe edition is $60?
Damn.
Okay, I usually like to talk about the positives of any game that's coming out, but I want to rip this band-aid off first. What is with these transactional tapeworms being attached to every Sonic game coming out recently? What makes it more annoying is that console players get a physical lore book for pre-ordering with no extra cost, but the PC Digital Deluxe Edition charges $10 extra for 3 days early access, a skin, a digital art book, an OST, and some skill points which will never really feel earned. The only thing mildly worth the extra cost is one extra level, which is nothing compared to what Sonic Frontiers gave us as free DLC. Ugh, whatever, I'm not gonna harp on about this because inevitably people are just going to jump at this deluxe edition with all the eagerness of a Futurama meme. So what are we in for? Well, besides being a great contender for Olympic speed skating, Shadow's fundamental moveset is similar to the Blue Blur. The boost and the homing attack, at least when not targeting enemies, are in his repertoire, and while it's not explicitly shown, I think it's fair to assume that the stomp, slide, lightspeed dash, and drift are also included for no extra cost. Probably. I don't know, you can never really tell what they can come up with these days. But that's where the similarities end, because Shadow's got some chaos powers to add a little extra kick to his combat. The first, while not being named per se, is seen when Shadow homes in onto an enemy. Instead of rocketing towards the enemy like Sonic, Shadow warps towards the enemy, which looks like a variant of the Chaos Snap from Sonic 06, and surprisingly, Chaos Punishment from Sonic and the Black Knight. Man, I just can't get over how cool he sounds when he says that. Shadow also has access to Chaos Control, which works like you'd expect. Once you activate it, the world goes grayscale with some green accents, time slows down around you, and certain objects can be used as platforms. There are also some semi-scripted moments where using Chaos Control triggers an event which functions like a QTE, I believe. Players also report that using it in certain areas unlocks a green alternate path, which I look forward to seeing when I play the game myself. Chaos Spear also makes a return, but right now it seems specific to certain situations, but considering Generations has a skill system, I personally think it's too early to definitively call it. There's also the whole thing about Shadow's Black Arms abilities, but a lot of it is speculation with no clear gameplay evidence, so I won't really touch on it that in depth right now. What we do have evidence of in crisp new graphics are stages returning from Shadow's past escapades. We got to see and hear about two big stages that people played during Summer Games Fest, the Ark Act 1 and the Biolizard boss fight. The Ark Act 1 starts off with a remixed interpretation of Final Chase from Sonic Adventure 2. Some rail grinding for what I assume is the level intro, running across big strips of land to get used to the controls until we meet some enemies in the form of GUN robots. One thing to note is that there is an alternate pathway that can be taken by tearing through the wooden crates straight into some springs. While I can appreciate the effort and the sentiment, it seems like the two alternate paths almost immediately reconverge into the next section of the level. We've got some green platforms which change the gravity's direction, but based on the position of the dash panels on another alternate path, it looks like Shadow doesn't remember how to wall run quite like how he used to. Following that is the first application of Chaos Control, where it's used to slow down time and jump on some missiles to reach some springs. I can personally see a lot of creative potential for Chaos Control being able to change how you can interact with the level, like using it to vault off of enemies and such instead of just destroying them. Chaos Control is based on a gauge that fills up with energy as you take out enemies and pop item boxes containing Chaos energy. If Shadow the Hedgehog also has a skill system, which I believe it does, I can easily see the amount of energy you can hold being an upgradable skill. There's also the aforementioned QTE sections with Chaos Control where Shadow breaks apart a missile and kicks half of it into a structure. Glad to see that his technique is still immaculate. I've always personally liked Shadow being portrayed as more aggressive and direct compared to Sonic. I think him shredding the missile is a nice touch since Sonic would probably jump or run over it. After the QTE, we see the inside of one of the facilities with a lot of ramps that look suspiciously like they're made for the spin dash. Black Doom then appears roughly halfway into the level, transforming it into a corrupted version of Radical Highway. This stage looks incredible, with an alternate path that seemed to span longer than what we saw at the start, so like more than 2 seconds. But what really caught my attention were the in-game dialogue lines and interactions.
My latest creation.
These haven't been used in Sonic games since Forces. But the point I want to make is that Unleashed, Colors, the original Generations, what is happening right now? And even Frontiers could have benefited from this. To me, in-game dialogue is great at adding personality and depth to a story, and I'm glad it's being used. In fact, I hope they also end up including end-of-level dialogue. That being said, they should be careful where they get their inspiration from.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
The Biolizard boss feels like a straight upgrade from the original fight. The new design, with its flappy gills, the new remix of Supporting Me, and a brand new phase where Shadow uses the aforementioned Chaos Spear, really do a lot of work in just improving the boss fight over the original. One thing I noticed from the beginning is just how much tighter and smoother the controls seem to be. Oh, that sounded better in my head. I'll need a hands-on experience to confirm, but just looking at the turning guard gives me the impression that Sonic Team managed to finally program a proper cerebellum into their hedgehogs. And the end of the boss is just incredible. Shadow uses the Chaos Control to repel a huge energy ball, gave me Dark Spine Sonic vibes there, bounce off of the Biolizard orbs to kick it back, and then slam into its life support. God damn, it's like Shadow finally got over his amnesia fully and remembered that he used to be cool. In terms of other minor things, I'm sure anyone who's been following the news of this game has seen the picture of Shadow's white space hub world. I think now's a good time to mention that Sonic X Shadow Generations is being developed by Sonic Team themselves instead of some studio who's barely had any connection to Sonic, and it really shows. It shows that Sonic Team is still relatively fresh off of the lessons that they learned from Frontiers and want to implement them as if saying, hey, we listened. And I think that's commendable. One last thing to mention is that while I showed the in-depth gameplay, the official trailer also has some snippets of additional levels and possible implications for a Time Eater and Black Doom boss. There's footage of a remake of Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06, which has captivated a lot of Sonic fans, and I can understand why. I believe that Sonic 06 actually has good level concepts and designs, but any hopes and dreams that the designs carry are expeditiously put down by the awful controls, mechanics, and lack of playtesting. As such, I think levels like Kingdom Valley are great candidates for this game and give a taste of what Sonic 06 could have been. So, with all of that covered, there was one more trailer in the level, right? So which one did they? Yeah! Words cannot describe my surprise and elation when I heard that a stage from Sonic Heroes, especially Rail Goddamn Canyon, was being brought back. For context, I actually couldn't watch Summer Games Fest live because of time zone issues, so I actually watched it first thing when I woke up. I was still drowsy and contemplating sleeping in after watching it, so when I say I sat bolt upright, I mean that it felt like I got injected with 3 Red Bulls worth of caffeine and none of the terrible aftertaste. I know that more people were excited for Kingdom Valley, which is definitely understandable, but Sonic 06 was the first mainline Sonic game that I played, so I have a more special connection to that game. And seeing that they were bringing back more stages from it took me down the memory lane of my childhood in a luxury supercar. In fact, I'd say seeing Rail Canyon in the trailer was about 75% of the motivation for me to make this video. I can't wait to hear how they've remixed this level's music too. I love the original's high energy guitar. All in all, I think Sonic X Shadow Generations has the potential to be a full slam dunk of a remake that'll tide fans over until the next mainline Sonic game, while also introducing a new generation to the journey across Sonic's timeline. I have a few issues with this recent obsession of plastering on a deluxe edition on every new release, and while I do think it needs to stop, this one isn't that egregious compared to something like Sonic Origins' situation. I also likely won't be pre-ordering the game unless I get full confirmation that it's technically and mechanically stable. Colors Ultimate gave me some serious trust issues. But I will definitely be looking for said confirmation regularly as an excuse to buy the game, and even if all else fails, I'll probably just get it day one after checking reviews for game stability. And with that, I've completed yet another video essay, which I've actually really started to enjoy doing. That being said, these take quite a bit of time to make, so I have my usual Let's Plays and Shorts videos, which you're welcome to check out, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in another video. Till then, guys!